Hello and welcome to a new episode of Airport CEO here on BongoPlanes, where we continue working on our London City Airport. We still have quite a lot of things to do to really have the airport ready for traffic, but we will gradually start opening up parts, and today we'll be focusing on the international part. We want to have some first flights coming in, and we will be signing some of the airlines that you guys have suggested in previous episodes. That and much more right after the drop. And as always, before we get too far into today's video, if you should end up enjoying this episode, then don't forget to leave a like. That really does help us out. And of course, if you are new around here, why not hit subscribe? Alright, so the first thing we want to look into is signing some Airline Spots. As I've just booted up the game, normally it takes quite some time before we get a decent selection of airline offers. This resets every time you reboot your game. I don't know if I really like that mechanic, but it is just how it is. We can see there are some offers coming in already, but obviously not enough, and none of the ones that have been suggested so far. As always, of course, if you have some ideas what airlines we could have here at the airport, then you can leave those suggestions in the comment section below. So we will just leave that these offers coming in while we are working on our terminal, because it is really not ready yet for passengers. Not ready for passengers, you might ask. Aren't we already having flights coming in? And yes, absolutely we are. Of course, that has been so far basically test operations to make sure that our airport kind of works, and it does so, at least until now. We want to adjust a few things here and there, so we will try to adjust a little bit the layout here with the boarding desk. Hopefully that will solve the issue of passengers waiting basically in the wrong waiting room. I'm not sure it will. I think ultimately the only thing that could solve our issue we had last time, where passengers are waiting, well, not wrongly, but basically not entirely where we wanted them to wait. I think the only reason, or the only way to solve that issue would be if we had doors in the game that were only one directional, so passengers could go only in one direction through these doors, but we don't have that, so that's not really an option. So the main goal is, I think today, is that we will open 4 more stands up, and those stands will be in the international section of the airport. So we need to connect up all our different check-in counters, the automated check-in counters, and we of course also have plenty of other things that we need to work on in the airport just to make it a little bit more friendly to for the passengers. Last time we really worked on a lot of facilities, so a lot of bathrooms, staff rooms, the basic things you need for the airport. I don't think we will really get to adding more shops, or at least finishing these shops in this episode, but we should try to make the airport a little bit more welcoming to our passengers. We will be adding working on some lounges, even though London City doesn't have any lounges in real life, but we want to add them here because I think that's really the one feature that the real airport is really missing. Of course, we also need to get in some staff because we want to have more flights coming in. That will of course mean that the airport will simply need more people to handle all these additional tasks. Alright, then there are 2 quick things I want to do. We kind of forgot to finish off here the waiting room here for one of the boarding areas in the domestic area, so we just quickly want to do that. And then another thing that we need to really always keep in mind is we need to add bins, and we haven't really added any bins here in the domestic or the international departure area, and we really need to do that because I think otherwise we will get quite some issues with garbage laying around in the airport, and that will drag down the rating of the airport, so we want to fix that. Alright, then I've been thinking about a little bit about the floor design of the airport. Normally build my airports rather uniform, so basically using the same, for example, floor materials across the airport. I don't quite want to do that as much in this airport. I want to do that a little bit more differently, so having some floor designs or floor types rather in, for example, the domestic area, but the international area should look a little bit different. I think it's mainly because my impression of British airports in general is that they often have kind of grown naturally. So there haven't been, you don't really find many airports in the UK that okay, this is entirely just my perception of how it is. I might be completely wrong, but my perception of UK airports is that they normally haven't really, you don't find a completely newly constructed airport in the UK where everything has been thought out from the beginning, but it kind of, they started building something and then the airport grew, they added a little bit here and there, and it can sometimes give a little bit of a chaotic impression, and definitely from a style-wise point, kind of a little bit chaotic as well. Yeah, I don't know if this makes sense, but let me try to explain it in a different way. If you, for example, go to Munich Airport, Terminal 2, well, you will kind of see there was one idea, everything was built at once, and this is how it looks. If you then go to London Heathrow, you will find many different design elements because, of course, the airport has grown over many, many years. Which is normal, it's natural, it's not a critique. But basically, I think that's why I want to also do things here a little bit different at this airport, having some different floor elements in the different sections of the airport, kind of trying to replicate that feeling that there wasn't a mastermind behind it from the beginning, but it has slowly grown over time, and then you use the materials that were in at the moment. So yeah, I fully admit I might just completely overthink things here, but that's how I work. I tend to focus on some details and then completely overthink them, and maybe go too deep into specific things and then ignore other things. But yeah, that's how I work. Just leave me be. Anyway, so one thing I mentioned that we really are missing at the real life London City Airport are airline lounges. And while we're trying to replicate or trying to build some form of a replica of London City Airport, I think we can also be a little bit open to making things better than real life. I mean, at the very least, we should add some airline lounges. I would be surprised if the airport wouldn't have airline lounges after the refurbishment of the real airport has finished. I mean, they are right now expanding and refurbishing the airport. And if they finish that without having any airline lounges, I honestly don't know what to say if that would be the case. So in anticipation, I guess, of airline lounges hopefully finding their way into the real London City Airport, we're adding them here as well. Now, obviously, we will try to give these lounges to airlines that are operating at the airport. I think that's the only option we have anyway. But we will have, I think mainly we'll have these airline lounges in the international part. Maybe we can squeeze one or two in also in the domestic part. But today we will focus mainly on the international part because we want to have some more airlines coming in. And I think the majority of flights that will be offered to us are international flights. It seems like that, at least at the moment. I think the first airline that definitely should have a lounge here is simply BA City Flyer, because that technically, I guess, should be the largest airline here at the airport. I don't think it will be in the game because the game works differently, but they should definitely have a lounge. And after that, I think it's pretty much up to you. I think today we will lay the foundation. We will make a layout for a lounge, and we will copy paste that layout. We can then afterwards go in and tweak it a little bit, change it here and there a little bit. But basically we will build this one lounge and we will give it to BA City Flyer. Hopefully that will also improve their opinion of us so we can start getting some flights in from them as well, because we still haven't had any BA City Flyer flight coming in. And then, as I said, the rest of the lounges we will give out to airlines that we're signing here, and then it's pretty much, I think, your choice really, which airlines, once we have signed an airline, if that airline should then also have a lounge at the airport or not. I'm not sure if we can really give every single airline a lounge, but I guess first come served. Is that how you say it? First come, first served. First come, first served. I'm sorry. I know the saying, but I know it in Danish. So I just had to think. I think it's first come, first served in English as well. Yeah. Anyway, But anyway, if you have, once we've signed some airlines, and we will be signing airlines today, and if you think this airline that you signed today, yes, they should definitely have a lounge, then let me know in the comment section below. And then if there's nothing there that you think should have a lounge, then I'm sure we will find some other airline in a future episode, because we will continuously add more airlines. The reason I did kind of explain it in the last episode why I'm not adding all airlines at once, and that is because of the new rating system in the game. If we're adding all the airlines at once and we then don't serve them or don't give them flights, their opinion of the airport will become quite negative, and it will be more difficult for us to attract new flight offers from those airlines. So we want to open the airport gradually, and then this has also the benefit that we of course always are testing out new sections of the airport and making sure that everything works fine. Alright, but so we are basically having 4 lounges so far, and 1 is assigned to be a city fly, and the 3 others will then be assigned to airlines that you guys suggest. Alright, so let's just fix up the last few details here. The lounge is open, that's great. We can't really squeeze that in anyway. Again, we can modify these a little bit in the future as well to make them a little bit different from each other, but for now that's fine. Let's also quickly open up a few more of these passport checks, and then let's take in a few more offers or a few more flights. We can get some international flights in as well now, so let's also try to get some in here just to test it out, to see that the international part of the airport as well works. We know that the domestic part works fine, but there might be something that we have overlooked. Since we're getting flights into the international part now, let's also get some more equipment. We've opened up 4 more stands, so 4 of each type of GC we need for that, 4 stairs, 4 pushback trucks and so on. That way we are sure that we have enough equipment. See, that's all fine. Okay, let's check. Alright, so the flight is coming in soon, but we have a little warning indication here. So let's find out what that is about. So there's one for CJ202 and something about package handling service. Okay, so something is not working there. Available check-in desk for CJ202. Why is that? Let's head over to our check-in counters, and that's of course because I have forgotten to turn them on. I have the habit to switch off all the things that I don't need, especially check-in counters. I mean, when I've constructed them, I switch them off and only start opening them up again once I know that we need them, because I have experienced sometimes that the game was starting to use them even though they weren't fully connected up and stuff like that. And it's to avoid these kind of things, I always switch off all these things, but of course you then need to remember to switch them on again once you start using this equipment. And that was what I forgot in this case, but I like this way. Now you have these small warning indications. I think in the earlier system you just got a notification in your email, so to say, and but you were spammed with these, so you would never notice them. Now you get a little warning indication, the game tells you what's wrong. I really like that. Alright, so after we sorted out this little issue, let's take a look. Now we should have plenty of airlines that have loaded in with offers to sign contracts with them. Let's just take a quick look, because we really want to sign them. A few more airlines now, so we can get more aircraft coming in. I think Airline Lounges. Yeah, I think let's sign Airline Lounges. That makes sense. I'm trying to look also for the airlines. Airline Lounges, I'm pretty sure, was one of the airlines suggested by you guys, but I'm trying to look also for those to start signing them, especially the realistic ones, but we can also take in some other stuff, especially also Titan, I think kind of makes sense, although they in this case only operate A320s, but we won't get a realistic fleet here at the airport, unfortunately. But I do believe that with the expansion of the airport, they will also be able to take in a bit larger aircraft, so not just ERJ 190s, but I think also up to A320s. I think that was the plan. I might be wrong here, but that's what we will have here in the game, because yeah, the game, we can't just have ERJ 190s and Jumbolinos and stuff like that. The game just doesn't allow us to distinguish or be that detailed with what aircraft type we want to get in here. But while I'm waffling around on about that, why not sign or already schedule a few flights with Aer Lingus? I did kind of express my happiness about the flights being more realistic. I think the domestic flights seem to be a tad more realistic than they used to. The international flights still look to be all over the place. I think that's really one thing that game developers could look into a little bit more. I know it's really difficult, and but just a bit more realistic with the airports that are chosen, because it's still very much all over the place. All right, so we're waiting now for the first international flight to come in. We are seeing here some passengers. They're going through the passport controls. I think most of them choose the automated passport controls. I guess I would too. But yeah, so while we're waiting for that, or let's say it like this, let's cut and then see how it goes with the first flight. Alright, so we are now just seconds away from our first international flight arriving here, a British Airways City Flyer. Although the runway still is occupied with some general aviation, we will have to look into that to see that it doesn't interrupt our operations too much once the airport gets more busy, but for now I think it still works. But I guess as soon as this little GA has left, the BA will arrive, and there it is, coming in on our runway that soon needs to be repaired. Let's see where it's coming from. Alicante. Yeah, that's not totally unrealistic. I don't think it would be the destination I would think of the first when thinking London City, but it's not totally unrealistic. Alright, so the aircraft is now taxiing towards the ramp, and one thing I'm noticing here, and I really like, is that the stairs for the aircraft are already at the ramp. That is great. Normally we seem to always be waiting quite a long time. This time the game seems to have triggered that earlier. Maybe the developers have changed something in the game to trigger the GSE so it arrives before the aircraft comes in, which makes sense. If so, that would be a really great little tweak to the game. Let's quickly check here. I think ratings seem to be alright, and we do also seem to have enough equipment. So this seems to go quite well. Passengers are going in, and they do seem to go in just the way we were intending them to do. Then they go through passport controls. That also seems to work. So yeah, I would say that's definitely not a bad start for the international part of our airport. So now that the first flight has come in, and I would say so far is going rather well, let's add a few more flights to start picking up the pace here at the airport. We want to strain it a little bit more just to start seeing if there should be any issues, if we need more staff, if we need more GSE. I think GSE, I would assume that we are fine, but staff might be an issue, who knows. And then of course we've signed one airline so far, but that's not enough. We want to have a few more airlines to get a few more flights in also to the international sector. The only issue is I have no control over what offers are coming in, so let's just see. But I think we have a few more. So Swiss, they do fly to London City, although they do it with Helvetic. I don't remember if I have a Helvetic mod. I think so, but it hasn't loaded. If so, maybe next time then. But let's get at least one more in, and let's see, what could we choose? Obviously not JetBlue. KLM. Yeah, let's take KLM. I mean, I don't think they do fly. Do they? No, that it's Alitalia, but they could fly, and maybe in the future. So as I said, of course, you have already suggested airlines. We will add them over time. Feel free to add more or suggest more airlines, or suggest again, just to be sure that I will not forget. But yeah, let's get some more flights in here, also in the international part. because we want to make sure that our airport really works, and it doesn't just work when we have one aircraft a day, but also with multiple aircraft. We will see if there are bottlenecks all over the place, or if we have calculated the space correctly. One more quick look here. Let's just get a little bit more staff in, and then I think we are getting towards the end of today's episode. But just before we end the episode, let's quickly take a quick glance on some of the ratings here, because they are a good indication as well if things are not going well. We have one here that is rather low, terminal quality. So that's something we need to look into. I guess that could be maybe because, for example, we don't really have many shops. I think that's something that influences that. But yeah, we will have to look into that while an Aer Lingus arrives. And I remember now that the request was Aer Lingus in the new livery, but the mod I have is Aer Lingus in the old livery, and I don't think there is a mod with the new livery. I haven't found it at least. And I don't make these mods myself, so unfortunately I don't really have control over that. But I do hope that you aren't too disappointed about that while we're watching a KLM arriving as well. So the airport is starting to get busier and we start to see more airlines here. I'm really happy with that, and I think this is the perfect moment to end today's episode. We have done quite a bit of progress here, I think, in this episode. I'm really happy with that. So if you have enjoyed this video, then don't forget to leave a like. That really does help us out. Of course, if you are new around here, why not hit subscribe? That would be absolutely awesome. Any suggestions, tips, or thoughts, you're always welcome to leave in the comment section below. I genuinely read all the comments and try to respond to as many as possible. So with that, I have nothing else to say other than thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.